right, so now we are live. So to whoever is watching it afterwards, now I can say good morning or good afternoon or good evening. We are beginning this first online gathering of young Theosophists. My name is Rafael. I'm coordinating the gathering with the help of other young Theosophists who will also speak in the next uh, few hours and days. Um, I would like to begin with an opening meditation. I think it would be good. So I'll just invite everyone to find a very stable positions, seated, close your eyes, try to breathe deeply, and every time that you breathe out, try to relax a part of your body who normally is tense. So when you breathe out, try to relax your shoulders, relaxing your eyes, your forehead. Perceive how if you breathe more slowly, then your whole emotions also tend to get more serene. Your agitation begins slowly to go away, and you begin to feel that you are in a state of calm, who is prepared to enjoy a moment of communion with friends. You can carry on, breathe deeply, and we can also perceive our minds get very clear, very active, and very calm, prepared to discuss interesting subjects and also to be open for intuition from above. A few minutes ago, we just shared the countries where we are coming from, and we realized that through this Zoom meeting, we are having people from all around the world, such as United States, Brazil, Mexico, UK, Spain, Italy, India, the Philippines. And using this Zoom account, we are all connected to each other. And for a moment, I would invite you to ponder in this global web that we are creating this connections that is active through the internet, but also is creating this energetic web connecting us all. I will read a fragment of one of the Mahatma letters to inspire this moment. He says, "Here and there twinkles a point of light which marks a nature still somewhat spiritual, a person who aspires and struggles after the higher knowledge. These scattered sparks must be combined to make its flame, and this is the task of the Theosophical Society. This, the pleasant part of its work in which we would so gladly assist." I would then invite you all to put the palms of your hands upwards and try to perceive whether through your hands you could feel this connection, almost like we create this global network of people who share some kind of vision, who believe in some kind of unity and universal brotherhood and sisterhood and family. Imagine that through your hands, these little lines of energy are connecting us and making us more connected, allowing us not to believe in the universal family, but also to feel it. We are all scattered around the world, but we do have the power to be together. Now we can all close our hands, begin to feel our body, our physical body again, and slowly opening our eyes and be prepared to the beginning of the first online gathering of young Theosophists. So be very welcome, everyone. Um, so we have more people now. I'm very happy. We have 26 people in the Zoom meeting and a few more people watching from the YouTube channel. Um, we would like to, I would like to present how it was organized. So the idea of this event is that we will have a moment in which a few young theosophists will share a bit of their visions and a bit of their perspective and understandings of what it means uh, to be a young theosophist and what they think the role of the theosophical youth should be. And then after that, we will have a more open moment in which we can all discuss together what it means for us. So I will be the first one. I will just share a few things. Initially, I would basically just be the host, but then it was suggested that I could also share a few words. So what we'll do. Um, when I planned to do this gathering, I think I had three objectives in mind. And the first one is that we, as young theosophists around the world, should know each other. I've been organizing youth gatherings since 2015 in Brazil, and I think it's very important that we know each other. We know who we are, what kind of interests we have, what kind of activities we are doing. Because if we are all scattered and we don't know each other, then how can we possibly be this nucleus of universal family for the future? So I think it's very important. And this gathering has this kind of design. The idea that we know who are these people, who are in which country they live, what are they studying, what they think about the present and about the future. That's what the first objective. The second one is that we really not only know each other, but we feel that we are a global community. I had the chance to go to ADR, to the International Convention from 2015 to 2016. And to me, it was an amazing experience when you go there and you find all these people from all around the world. And you really feel that the Theosophical Society is some kind of global family. But sometimes when you are limited to your city or your country, you feel like the Theosophical Society is quite a local, small thing. And it's not the case. And it was very empowering to feel this sense of global community when I was in ADR. And I think with the internet, we can also kind of create this feeling among us, even if you are not present in the same place, but using, Zoom and other tools. So that's the second objective, to remember that we are not alone, that we are part of a very big global plan, and that we also can have the support of all these people. And I believe the third and perhaps most important of the objectives of this gathering is that by knowing each other and having this sense of global community, we can also do things together. So we can have projects together, we can propose things. So for instance, there is historically something called the Youth Federation, the International Youth Federation. We could, make it more active. That's a project. I mean, maybe we could do together. Should we do a journal or magazine based on youth? That, that's something that we can do as well. What else we can do? I mean, if we know each other and we feel friendship to each other, then we can also open spaces for projects and initiatives that will help this theosophical movement to go forward. So the gathering is something very simple. We are just, coming together in a couple of panels, and we can also repeat this in a couple of months, maybe, because it's very simple to organize. But then I hope that there are more fruits that will come from this initiative, because everyone here have something in mind, and maybe connecting to each other, we can share these projects and ideas and put them into practice. So, and I would like to share then, regardless of this gathering, that is this simple event with these three objectives, I would also like to share a bit of what I think about the Theosophical movement and the role of the youth, very briefly, because I want to other people to talk. But since I began to be involved with the Theosophical movement, I realized that there's something very powerful in it. At the same time, I always thought that some things could change and could be better. And I suppose I am a particularly critical person sometimes. But, and then if we think about the history of the Theosophical movement, we can see that there are different waves of Theosophists that also represent different ways of thinking and understanding what Theosophy is. So we have people who are more Blavatsky-centered, and people who also study Theosophies from the second generation, like Leadbeater and others. And then we have the third generation with Krishnamurti and others, etc. And something that's very beautiful about the Theosophical Society based on Adyar is that these different perspectives live together and coexist, and every person has to find her or his own perspective that fits her better. But I do think that now in the 21st century, we also have to find maybe new ways, new perspectives to understand what Theosophy is or should be. And what it is, we don't know yet. We are seeing it happen, and I think we can see, talking to people, that this perspective is around, is somewhere. Lots of people are thinking similarly, but it still needs to be elaborated to have a more clear shape. And I think that's the task that some of us should do, to understand what is a new way to understand Theosophy, not to replace the other perspectives, but to coexist. So perhaps in the future, someone can be a more Blavatskyan, or more Leadbeaterian, or more Krishnamurtian, or maybe a, I don't know, X, and a new way of thinking that also corresponds to the ways that lots of people are thinking about Theosophy. And maybe it will help the Theosophical Society to attract new people and to be of value to the society as a whole in a way that's coherent to current times. So earlier this year, we gathered in Brazil in a few young theosophists, and we did write something called the Theosophists Declaration. That was basically 7 propositions of youth for the future of the Theosophical Society that represented how we were thinking at the time and how we think about the future, and what we want to do and see in the Theosophical Society. But obviously, we were only a small group of theosophists in Brazil, and uh, the whole idea was, let's engage in dialogue with everyone. Let's think together what we want, and then to some extent, this gathering is also an invitation to everyone to discuss together what this new perspective of theosophy should be, if we want to discuss that, and then we can find where we agree and where we disagree, and it will be fine. So those were my words to open the event. I would like to invite the first person, and I also want to comment on how we thought about this event. I asked 3 people to talk after me today, and 4 people tomorrow. And I asked them to share their thoughts about the youth movement for 10 minutes each. And then I would like to invite everyone to engage in a more open discussion. In this moment of open discussion, I would ask people to post, to mention in the chat if you want to speak. Then I would try to coordinate this more open discussion. And I would also want to create some kind of limitation, because sometimes, some people get really excited and begin to speak for a long time. So I'll just ask people to try to speak in up to 3 minutes. And then if you speak for 3 minutes, I'll say, okay, that's enough. Maybe you can subscribe and speak again later, so we can have a dynamic moment, and everybody has the chance to speak if they want. So today we have 3 young people who would share their thoughts more lengthily. Shikha Agnihotri from India, Patrizia Conti from Italy, and Luke Ironside from United Kingdom. So the first one is Shikha. So Shikha, if you could open your mic and share a bit of your thoughts.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for wonderful words, Brother Raphael, for such an inspiring gathering, and the meditation also. It was really motivating. Dear sisters, brothers, and friends from all over the globe, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon whichever continent of the earth you are on. Although right now we are feeling as one family, but still the physical distance is there. And hearty greetings from Adyar, the international headquarters of the Theosophical Society. First of all, I would like to congratulate Brother Raphael for taking the initiative to organize this global online youth get-together of the Theosophical Society. Because no matter how great, glorious, or an organization has been in the past, it always comes down to the shoulders of the youth to carry on the work into the future. And by youth, I do not just mean those who are physically or biologically young, but even those who are young at heart, those who have the passion for the mission, or those who have actually felt the alchemical effect of theosophy in their own life, and they cannot do anything else but share this ray of light with those who are still walking in the dark, and thereby bringing the change in the world in their own limited capacity. Because the transformation of the world begins with the essential transformation in an individual. And that transformation cannot be brought about by just relying on any branch of modern science only. And it is in this context I would like to share a statement from Mr. James Gustav Speth, a US advisor on climate change, who shared his insight after working for the environment for a long time. And he says, I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. And I thought that 30 years of good science would address these problems, but I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with these, we need a cultural and spiritual transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. I would like to repeat the last line that he says, and we scientists don't know how to do that. And that's exactly has been the message of Theosophy to the world. That selfishness in different forms is the real cause of all evil in the world. The sense of separateness with others is the fundamental source of all sorts of discrimination or warfare. And on the other hand, the sense of unity is the source of love, compassion, and creativity. And that is why the first and foremost objective of the Theosophical Society is to create a nucleus of universal brotherhood or sisterhood or love without any discrimination. And at every step of theosophical literature, the ideal of selflessness is repeated over and over again, just to remind us that altruism is the essence of theosophy. And when we look around the world, although at present, Corona is having all the attention of the people worldwide, it is stress that is declared by World Health Organization as the global pandemic of the 21st century. And even that in that percentage, the percentage of youth is the most. I mean, if we take the total sample as 100%, the youth is the one that is most affected by this stress. And similarly, so many other challenges are staring right in our face. And that it becomes all the more vital and necessary that we as youth, individually and collectively, try to take the enlightening teachings of Theosophy to as many as possible by using the latest technology available and addressing the problems at the global, national, regional, and individual level. As one of the masters of the wisdom says, that to be true, religion and philosophy must offer the solution of every problem. That the world is in such a bad condition morally is a conclusive evidence that none of those religions and philosophies, those of the more civilized races less than any other, have possessed that truth. To these, there must be somewhere a consistent solution. And if our doctrines will show their competence to offer it, then the world will be the first one to confess that this must be the true philosophy, the true religion, the true light, which gives truth and nothing but the truth. And the reason for sharing this statement is that when we imagine or talk about the future of something, or someone, as we are talking, imagining the future of theosophy. It naturally and logically depends upon the fact that of how much value it has been for the people or the society at large, and how many hearts has it touched and how many minds has it enriched. Because we all know that only when we realize the value of something or someone, then and then only we care for it. We do everything to protect it, to cherish it, and to carry it forward for the generations to come. And that is how the ageless wisdom has been kept alive for generations. And the more number of people revere it, the more number of times they think about it, the more energy that idea will receive, and the longer time duration it will remain vibrant for. And in turn, the more vibrant it is, the more number of minds it will attract. Just like where there is honey, the bees will come. But the key here is the sense of value that one attaches with something, which depends upon the qualitative change that the person or thing has brought about in one's life, which is the most significant factor in determining its future. And when we talk about the future of theosophy, in the words of HPB, she says, the future of theosophy will depend almost entirely the future of theosophy will depend almost entirely upon the degree of selflessness, earnestness, devotion, and last but not the least, on the amount of knowledge and wisdom possessed by those members, on whom it will fall to carry on the work and to direct the society. And so, the more appropriate thing is to talk about the future of the Theosophical Society, the future of the vehicle or of the vehicles of Theosophy, because HPB says that if you speak of Theosophy, it has existed eternally throughout the endless cycles upon cycles of the past. So it will ever exist throughout the infinitudes of the future, because Theosophy is synonymous with everlasting truth. And what about Theosophical Society, as we just discussed, which is basically true for any organization. And so we come to the point where we have to contemplate not only how can we help in revitalizing the TS work, but also to think of the ways to make the theosophical teachings more relevant, more accessible, and more visible on the panorama of the world thought of 21st century. The same view has been expressed in the declaration that was prepared, as Rafael just mentioned, during the summer school in Brazil by young members of the Theosophical Society. The various aspects that it emphasizes are more and more on how to connect the theosophical teachings with what is going on in the world, and to explore possible solutions to the ever recurring challenges of a particular generation or an era, from individual to global level, and to give more encouragement to the youth movement. The question of how to do it is a question which has so many opinions, dimensions, and layers, as we have by the study. And if we see the culture in Theosophical Society, that's somebody, as Raphael mentioned, somebody follows Blavatskian thought, somebody follows Annie Besant or Leadbeater, or somebody follows something, somebody is more interested in study, somebody is more interested in service or meditation. So the question how to do it is a question which has so many opinions, dimensions, and layers to it that it requires an intensive brainstorming session. Although which is already being done by the present president of the TS, Mr. Tim Boyd, and other office bearers, but the scope of which is beyond this talk of 10 minutes but will be discussed after this session when we have an open session. And with the same intention of making theosophy accessible to as many possible, Catalina and I started a YouTube channel with the name of Pragya CS Studio, in which we try to present the theosophical doctrines in simple language with audio and visual effects, and in English, Spanish, Hindi, and Portuguese, so as to reach more number of people. We started it in the month of May 2020, and gradually building up the content with everyone's assistance. So all of you are most welcome to contribute to it, but still in the end, to say a few words inspired from HPB, what HPB has shared in Key to Theosophy, what we can do really for the Theosophical Society as well is, first of all, one has to study and grasp the theosophical doctrines oneself, so that we may share it with others, especially the young people who are in dire need of this kind of not just philosophy, but the philosophy that can be implemented. And I saw it when we conducted a workshop here on study, meditation, and service in Varanasi with about 50, 60 students of a graduate level. After they attended it, and it was nothing so deep. We just discussed something about karma, thought power, meditation, and activity, meditation theory and practice, and study and contemplation, team efforts like cleaning a space together, cooking, serving. So, and all the time of being aware of your thought process. Because the purpose of study and grasping means that the message can be conveyed in a manner that is more appropriate to today's time and era, and in a language that is easy to understand. Because sometimes a new person comes in the lodge meeting and we are talking so in difficult technical terms that sometimes that repels that person back. And another, the most important of all, by the example of our own lives. Because more than just studying and teaching, it is living the teachings that create the impact. Because our words touch the others only to the depth from which they are born in us. And in this respect, we can take a lesson from the past for the future, that during the time of Dr. Annie Besant, the Theosophical Society was on its peak. And if we carefully look at the reason behind it, we come to know that it was because Dr. Annie Besant theosophized, if I can use that word, although I've not heard it, but she theosophized every aspect or every dimension of life, be it spiritual, social, intellectual, emotional, physical, personal, and addressed the problems of the contemporary society, which made theosophy a household name in that time. And there seems no doubt at all why it cannot happen again if the same approach is taken. And with these words, I would like to stop. We can always discuss later in the open session to give way to the next speaker. And thanks again for this opportunity to share my views and thoughts on this wonderfully inspiring and motivating subject. Ciao, namaste, and thank you.
Thank you, Shikhar, for your very inspiring words. It's very good to hear from such a motivated young theosophist from the heart of the Theosophical Society in Adyar. Thank you. And I would like then to ask the next person to come and talk, who is Patricia Comte from Italy. Patricia, who came all the way from Italy to Brazil twice to our gatherings, youth gatherings. So it's very good to see you. If you could open your mic and share your thoughts.
Thanks. Thanks to everyone. And I'm really delighted to be here with you today. And today, with great joy, I'm going to read a text which was written together with the other Italian young theosophists. So firstly, let me list the names of the 9 brothers and sisters who have contributed to the editing, creation, and translation of this document. Most of them are here with us today. And they are Emanuele Ariano, David Berti, Nicoletta Boriello, Tobia Buscarione, hi Tobia, Patrizia Conte, Nicola Dalzotto, Mattia Lugarà, Chiara Pirlotton, Daniele Urlotti. So the cornerstone on which we have developed our contribution is represented by one single sentence: keeping the link unbroken. We have in fact decided to pay a tribute of gratitude, commitment, and enthusiasm to the following Blavatsky's words. She said, in fact, keep the link unbroken. Do not let my last incarnation be a failure. The question now is, what should we do to actually keep the link unbroken, in spite of all challenges of the 21st century, which we are resiliently trying to tackle? Somehow, the answers that keeps coming to us always revolves around the importance of defending and preserving the free objects on which the Theosophical Society was founded. We have also come to realize that this defense and preservation of our principles needs to be carried out not only from a theoretical point of view, but also through tangible everyday actions, while always safeguarding the specificity of the Theosophical Society. In order to do so, we need firstly to be able to carefully examine the challenges of our time, and secondly, to accurately define the practical and ethical implications of theosophy and of the free objects of the Theosophical Society. In our opinion, of course, the study and an effective understanding of theosophy, the eternal wisdom, will help us define all ethical principles that derive from it. And the most relevant object for our argument is the first to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. This object entails a peculiar way of living, which leads us to recognizing ourselves in all fellow human beings, acknowledging that we belong to the one reality in spite of our different manifestations. It also implies that our way of living our relationships with all other human beings must be based on an open-mindedness and a constant dialogue. Freedom of speech and thought is the essential distinctive element of the Theosophical Society. As a matter of fact, for what concerns freedom of thought, our Declaration of Principles clearly states that there is no doctrine, no opinion by whomsoever taught or held that is in any way binding on any member of the society, none which any member is not free to accept or reject. Approval of its free objects is the sole condition of membership. So our intention is keeping the link unbroken while still preserving freedom. And this raises some more questions. For example, can we legitimately define any type of thought as theosophical? Is there a way to determine whether a specific behaviors or ideology comply with the principles of theosophy, or whether they are actually against them? In our opinion, it is paramount for us as theosophists to oppose with all means any hateful behavior or idea which might generate inequality. We cannot accept any form of xenophobia, racism, sexism, homotransphobia, as well as we cannot accept any ethnocentric ideology or behavior. In our opinion, the true key to understanding how we can safeguard the first object of Theosophical society as well as the other objects is to be found in applying Theosophy to our everyday life, in meditating them deep down our own selves, and in making them an undeniable part of our interior and exterior actions. These are the reasons why, in order to keep the link unbroken, we think we need to live our Theosophical lives also through service, both at the individual and community level. Our society is crying out for answers and posing complex dilemmas, which cannot remain unnoticed. This is why our answers as Theosophists cannot be limited to conferences and articles, which are very important but not sufficient. We need really to be the change we wish to see in the world. And as an interesting reference to this aspect, I strongly recommend reading the Declaration of Theosopolis, which all the Italian young Theosophists have really appreciated. So the next point is that at present, the Theosophical Society is promoting a lot of projects which could effectively result in a great global change. For example, the Real Theosophical Academy and the projects promoted by the Theosophical Order of Service deserve further development and support, in our opinion, with the active help of all young Theosophists who could really become the protagonists of the activities of the TOS. When we think of service, we cannot forget that Italy was blessed with a gift of a great Theosophist, Maria Montessori. Do you know her? Yeah. Who was also a fantastic educator and pedagogist. One of the pivotal elements of her teaching method is the idea of learning by doing. It means that if we want to learn, we cannot simply listen to teachers, lecturers, or speakers at conferences, but we need to experiment and put ourselves to the test with authentic tasks. This is why we thought that points 6 and 7 of the Declaration of Theosopolis were particularly meaningful. We are convinced that young Theosophists should be given concrete tasks both within their own lodges and at national, international level. And here we get to the next point in our considerations, the creation of a profound sense of belonging. Our Theosophical centers seem to be the perfect place where people can feel part of a community, feeling that they truly belong to a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity. We suggest that our centers should be considered as real Theosophical laboratories, where different generations come together, where the Theosophical culture is cultivated and spread, and where meditation plays an important role. Because, as we know, study, service, and meditation constitute the three practices which can make us live a life that is truly Theosophical. Therefore, by creating a strong sense of belonging, we will be more ready to share the Theosophical message with the cultural and social context which our centers are part of. Finally, keeping the link unbroken does not mean rejecting change. On the contrary, we think that it means making evolution and constant renovation possible, while still remaining faithful to the original project of the founders, and promptly responding to the challenges of our times. For example, we think that the Theosophical Society should continue using social media wisely to spread the Theosophical message correctly, and implementing the use of virtual platforms such as Zoom and so on, to allow communication among Theosophists from different parts of the world. In conclusion, we would like to wish the brightest future possible to the Theosophical Society and all its members by reading some of HPB's most inspiring words. There is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer. There is no trial that spotless purity cannot pass through. There is no difficulty that a strong intellect cannot surmount. Thanks.
It's a bit difficult to me to say anything now. I'm a bit my emotions are all coming. Thank you. And if, as you and the other Italian young theosophists took the effort to write down a collective text, I think it would be very nice if you could share the text later. And I'm happy. I'm sure people would like to share in different venues. And I hope Charles would also love to have this text published somewhere.
Of course.
So thank you very much. I'm very excited with the two very inspiring talks. And I would like to go straight away to our next and last speaker for a bit longer before we open for open discussion, who is Luke Ironside. I believe originally from United Kingdom, but currently temporarily in Morocco, I believe. Well, Luke can explain it better if he wants. Luke, if you could open your mic and share your thoughts.
Well, hello everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever time of the night it may be where you are. I am also very delighted to be here today and very grateful to Raphael and to the other participants in this event for putting it together. I've been somewhat involved in the youth community, we could say, the general youth community of the Theosophical Society for a number of years now. And I've noticed a couple of trends, or perhaps we could call them themes, that have emerged throughout my time in the Theosophical Society. And one of those things that I've noticed is the discussion of the future alongside the discussion of youth. These two words seem to attract one another and go together. Whenever there's a youth event, it inevitably brings up the question of the future of the Theosophical Society. In fact, a few years ago, I facilitated a youth forum at Agile, which our brother Shika was also involved in. And the theme of that was the future of Theosophy. And just a few months ago, the Virtual Center for Theosophical Studies, a group primarily focused on Theosophical youth, had its first meeting on the topic of the future of Theosophy. And today we are likewise discussing imagining Theosophy for the future. So it seems to be a recurring theme, and I think that's significant, isn't it? There's a reason for that. When we consider our role as youth, I think we, in relation to the Theosophical Society, we need to be aware of the responsibility that we have as well. We are both privileged, but we also have a deep responsibility to consider the fact that we will one day inherit this great society, which is a rather momentous thing to consider, isn't it? Something that we need to prepare for and something that we need to question and have an ongoing dialogue about. This should be something, just as we are doing today and have been doing over the past few years, this should be something that we come together to discuss and to think about and to share opinions on, and to look at certain areas in which we agree or perhaps areas in which we disagree, so that we can arrive at a deeper understanding of what our role is and how we can each of us in our own individual and collective ways, be most of service to the Theosophical Society and to the world at large, which the Theosophical Society was founded to be of service to. So I do have a do have a presentation. If I can just make this a little bit larger. And I'd like to first talk about this word imagining. So imagining theosophy for the future. And of course, theosophy being ageless under a certain kind of theosophy, and then somewhere else we find another flavor or another kind of theosophy. So we could even use this term reimagining. We are reimagining theosophy. And what does reimagine mean? Well, the Webster Merriam Dictionary defines reimagine as to imagine again or anew, to form a new conception of, or to recreate. And I think this is an appropriate term to use when we're considering theosophy. So with theosophy itself, this is something which is ageless and timeless, and it stands beyond the various imaginings that we might form in our mind. So we need to distinguish between theosophy in essence, theosophy as the pure ageless wisdom, which we're ever endeavoring to understand, but never quite capture all of. We can never quite in our own imperfect condition understand theosophy in all its purity, in all its entirety, but we're always building our conception of theosophy and then rebuilding it. And sometimes we have to take a conception that may have been dear to us at one point or another, and sometimes we need to sacrifice that or to cast that aside in order to build a new conception which might be slightly closer to the truth. And we're always reaching towards the truth, never quite grasping it, but reaching towards it. And even HPB, when discussing the secret doctrine, she emphasized that even the secret doctrine is not the entirety of theosophy or pure theosophy. She says those who approach the secret doctrine expecting to find the truth may be disappointed. However, the secret doctrine does point towards the truth. And I think that's also our duty to ensure that we are not setting up on the pedestal of our attention something which may be only a conception, an idol, instead of the truth itself. And I think we're all guilty of that at times. I think it's something, we discover this beautiful idea, this amazing conception, and we tend to set it up on this pedestal of our attention and say, this is truth that I've discovered, I've discovered what is real. And then I find that when we do that, we are inevitably disappointed at one point or another when something seems to contradict it, or we discover we were not quite so close to truth in itself as we once believed we were. So we need to distinguish, and we need to keep this at the forefront of our minds. We need to distinguish between theosophy in essence and the conceptions of theosophy. And conceptions are important, and conceptions are valuable, and conceptions help us to understand this world that we find ourselves being a part of. So we need conceptions, but we also need to recognize conceptions for what they are. And I think the other barrier is that we sometimes tend to think of theosophy as some kind of philosophical system of thought that emerged in the late 19th century, from some scattered elements of different belief systems. But what we need to understand is, again, the theosophy of HPB that did emerge in the 19th century is merely one of these imaginings of theosophy. And it's a beautiful and a valuable one. But we need to realize that theosophy is something that is living. It's not something rooted in one time or another. It's constantly there beneath the surface of these conceptions. It's something that's always alive and can always take on new forms and new shapes. And so I think we also want to consider then our role as youth. How can we have a practical role in reimagining theosophy for the 21st century? One thing to consider then would be the discussion of moving forwards with Blavatsky. And we sometimes hear these discussions of, the the first generation of Theosophists versus the second generation, the some of the discrepancies between the different writings and so on. And while this is an interesting discussion and something that is great to have in our lodges and so on, we always want to remember it's not so much about going back to the original teachings necessarily. It might not be so much about referring to only what HPB said, and I don't think HPB would want that. I think she saw Theosophy as something which is constantly emerging to many different people and will take on new forms. So we want to think instead about going forwards with Blavatsky, taking taking the ideas that were presented in Blavatsky's day, but making them relevant to the modern world. And we often see Theosophy also discussed under two names. It's sometimes referred to as the ancient wisdom and sometimes referred to as the ageless. And I think both are very beautiful and valid terms, but they have slightly different shades of meaning, and we don't want to get too caught up in the terminology here. I think the term ancient wisdom, it more emphasizes the fact that Theosophy is rooted in the human past. It's as old as human thought itself, as long as humankind has been able to consider their environment and to philosophize and to consider why they are here. They've been able to have some conception of Theosophy, an older imagining of Theosophy, if you like. And then again, the term ageless wisdom, it reminds us that Theosophy is actually something which is timeless and it's a living philosophy, or it's a living walk of life. It's not simply an ancient system of thought. It is, in fact, something that can be lived and experienced today in our daily lives. It's not merely something rooted in the past that should be considered from a historical or philosophical context. And so we need to be conscious of the fact that Theosophy is something that we should live, not merely study or philosophize about. It's an intrinsically practical and experiential walk of life. And John Algio wrote an excellent article titled About the Future of the Theosophical Society. And he mentioned 5 things that we should consider when thinking about the future of the Theosophical Society. The first of these is tradition, in the context of what is the traditions that have shaped the Theosophical Society? And more importantly, why are these traditions important? Are they traditions simply for the sake of being traditions, or is there some deeper reason why we are keeping these traditions going? Is there some real spark to these traditions that help them to remain relevant to the modern time? So I think we need to make a distinction here, and we need to also find a balance between the preservation of tradition and the continuance of progression. We need to discover which traditions are valuable and which traditions are important now in this 21st century, and which may have been valuable and may have had a place back when the Theosophical Society started, but may not be so relevant nowadays. So it's again, a conversation we need to have, something we need to look at in perhaps the system of our meetings, the way that lodges come together, or the way that students come together to discuss Theosophy. And we see, especially this year as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, we see this new way of coming together emerging, which really was not there 3 or 4 years ago, as far as I noticed. And that's us coming together over the internet, crossing these barriers of location and time and so on. So we're coming together from all parts of the world to discuss these very relevant issues. And there's so many of these events taking place. So we see this is now merging into the 5th one. I've gone from 1 to 5 already, but we see all of these do correspond one to another. Because also in terms of modernization, I don't think young Theosophists, well, some of them are, but not all young Theosophists like to go to, say, a lodge or a library or a bookstore and sit down and read The Secret Doctrine or read one of these rather lengthy, old-fashioned books. I mean, I like this. I'm not sure if everyone does, but I think there are new ways of expressing Theosophy. It doesn't only have to be through texts, and it doesn't also need to be through long lectures. if we look through history with lodges and so on, lectures are usually what, 40 minutes to up to perhaps 2 hours in length, which is great. That works in some context. But I like what we've done today with these short 10-minute sessions where we just speak for 10 minutes each and share our ideas. And it's a new way of doing it, isn't it? And I think it's an example of modernization. Communication, well, that's what we're doing right now. I think we should be having this ongoing dialogue, and this also leads into consultation. We need to consult each other about our ideas. We can also consult the older generations of Theosophists and learn from their wisdom, and likewise share our own ideas and consult other groups. There are multiple youth groups sort of emerging around the world now. So we consult each other and see if some sort of emerging trend is apparent. And global participation, well, this ties in clearly to modernization because we're using the internet to do this. So I think this is something which should continue. This should be an ongoing conversation. I don't think we're going to answer these questions today that we're raising. I think we're going to discuss them. I don't think we'll necessarily come up with the answers. It's going to be something which we're going to need to re-examine again and again and again. And it's by doing that that we will arrive closer to the truth. And we'll arrive at a closer idea of perhaps what our role may be. So in conclusion, I do think the Theosophical Society remains as relevant today as when it was founded in 1875. However, its future depends largely on the preservation of its traditions, but alongside embracing progressively new ways of modernizing our methods of meeting or our methods of communication and our methods of studying Theosophy. And really, this responsibility falls to us, the youth of the Theosophical Society. We must consider and prepare for the continuance of the TS as we preserve and carry forward the work of this great society, which we will be privileged to one day inherit. And I think we each have a precious part to play in the future that is to come. And this work begins with us right now. It's something we can consider right now today. I think it begins as an internal process. We need to first look inwards to cultivate those noble attributes of selfless service, compassion, love, and dedication, so that we can find ourselves karmically called towards those positions and roles in which we might bring about the greatest benefit, and truly carry forward for future generations the sublime body of truths that is Theosophy. And so with that, I would like to just introduce one project which is for Theosophical youth, which I'd also like to invite people here today to participate in. And that is the Virtual Center for Theosophical Studies, which was founded earlier this year, directly attached to the headquarters in Adyar. And this is a group for anyone to participate in, but with a particular emphasis on youth. And we have 3 objects. As a virtual center, we want to make known the teachings of Theosophy to youth around the world through the means of the internet. We'd also like to be a resource for isolated members, and to therefore support the general work of the TS through virtual volunteer efforts suited to isolated members who may not be in proximity to a lodge or study group. And thirdly, we'd like to be an opportunity for innovative ideas, for imagining Theosophy, to contribute research and new ideas pertaining to the future of the Theosophical Society and the role of youth in its activities. So if anyone would like to participate in this, we're looking for ideas, we're looking for dialogue and discussion, we're looking for creative ways of expressing Theosophy and bringing it to the world. So everyone is welcome and everyone's ideas would be valuable. So I see I've exceeded my time. I do apologize for that. So yeah, so it's been an interesting talk. So I will now hand it over. I'd love to hear everyone else's ideas. And I believe we're now going to simply open up the floor for general comments. So thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I suppose that's a permanent, always present issue, isn't it, to keep with the time, and especially if it's only 10 minutes, but it was very inspiring. So I think it was worth watching. Thank you. Well, I'd like to So invite everyone to maybe send a message in the chat, just saying that you want to speak, and then we can have it in a more organized way. And I would just before I ask the first person to speak, Annie already requested. I would just suggest something that came to to our mind. We thought about this earlier, and I completely forgot in the beginning, but I suppose it happens. Is that when you speak, please say your name, because we have this goal of knowing each other a little bit. So please say your name and the country where you're speaking from. But also, if you want to include a curious fact about yourself, I think it would be a nice way to begin to know each other, not only as theosophists, but also as human beings who are we have several aspects of our lives. So I'll just begin and then hand over to Ain, the first person who asked to speak. Please use the chat to organize that. So I'm Rafael, I'm from Brazil, and two curious facts about me is that I'm quite a geeky person, and I'm also a very frustrated novelist. I'm writing novels since I was a teenager and never finished one, but this year it will change. I believe that I will finish my first book. Let's see. So, and can you turn your mics on and share your impressions?
I think I'm on. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this. This is so unbelievably inspiring. My name is Anne. A couple facts. I'm a former radio and television broadcaster, did stand-up comedy for a short period of time. My first job was singing telegrams, had my baby on national television, but that's not important. What is important is that you are here, these beautiful, young, fresh faces. I cannot even begin to tell you how inspiring this is. It's like goosebumps upon goosebumps. What is imperative is that you are the future, and that you recognize these teachings and you're taking them out into the world. I also work with Luke and Justin over the VCTS as a volunteer. I run a channel called Living Theosophy, because if I was to die, that would be what I would say, is become these teachings of Theosophy. And it is so refreshing to see this life coming back in, instead of just a bunch of gray hair, 3 gray-haired people sitting at the front of a dusty old lodge and library. That was, and what served us then. Those seeds have been planted. We are harvesting those seeds, and everybody is here. They're on their phones. The attention span is short, and everybody is online. And that's what we're doing. We're connecting because of COVID. But if we can take these teachings out into the digital world, make them appealing, make them exciting, they don't have to be so stoic and serious, but by applying them, becoming them, we can share our experience and we can reach more people, because what we have here in Theosophy is the Grail. This is the Grail, and we can share this with others, and they too then can take the Grail wherever they need to. Online, there are 5 billion people of the 7.5 billion people online on our planet. And we are now able to reach them. And I cannot tell you, Raphael, thank you so much for putting this together. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Patriza. Thank you, all of you, for being here and doing what you do. It is an honor to see this. And I'm so excited to see what is happening. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to register here as well. Thank you, Ain, so much. It's very good to have a professional from communication that can communicate so easily and quickly and clearly. I would just like it to, yeah. I just wanted to register that we have now 30 people online, and also in the Zoom, and we also have a couple of people in the YouTube channel. I think 7 people or something, just to register, because I think it's meaningful, and then I'm sure that lots more people will watch this later, because we are going to share in lots of channels. But I just think it's a good thing to keep it registered. Could you turn your mics on, Miriam?
Hi, do you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, hi everyone. I'm Miriam from Spain. Funny thing about me, well, funny, I don't know, it's funny. I'm a dietist, dietist nutritionist, and I've been in the Theosophical Society for 4 years. The first book I read was At the Feet of the Master from Krishnamurti, I don't know if it's the name in English because I sort of get lost of translation. Okay. And well, it's been so inspiring to hear you all. I'm really grateful to be here. And it's very refreshing to hear you all as young members of Theosophists. Maybe we do things in a different way than other members who have been in Theosophical Society for many years. And it comes to me that one of the issues that's happening in the Theosophical Society is that sometimes the teachings, the great and deep teachings that are in Theosophy are not really feel inside, you know? Maybe it's that some of us, I include myself as well, just feel it in an intellectual way, but we are not feeling inside and so sharing with the others. And I think that if we do that, there will be more people attracted to Theosophy, you know. And well, that's I think that's all I have to say. And I would like, please, all the initiatives you are doing, if you could please post in the WhatsApp group, because there are too many. I can't recall all of them. So well, thank you to you all, and we'll see another time.
Okay, thank you, Miriam. Do you all think it's too little, 3 minutes? I mean, people were speaking in two, so I suppose 3 minutes is a long time, isn't it? But people can repeat and talk again, so it should be fine. I would before anyone raise their hand and want to speak, I would just want to throw a few things in the group and see how people react. The first thing is that this gathering, as I mentioned earlier, it could be the first one of a series. Maybe perhaps we could do a new one with a different group of young Theosophists in November. Perhaps that was kind of an early idea. So we could share about ourselves and share about the ideas that were mentioned. But if you also want to share about the format, I mean, does it make sense? Do you have any recommendation about how it could be? But the main point was doing that. And I think it's also relevant to mention, Miriam said the WhatsApp group. There is a WhatsApp group that emerged from the youth forum in one of the international conventions. So if you want to join, please contact, I don't know, someone who can add you. I'm included. What else? Yeah, I think that was some of the words I wanted to share. And as nobody is mentioned anything that he wants to say, so I will speak more. Something that happens here when Patricia was talking, I found it very relevant to think. If we think about the history of the Theosophical Society, we see people, we see that we have lots of strong leaders, right? People who very strong intellectual capacities, who proposed new ways of understanding theosophy. And then something that I think is perhaps this new movement, this new way of thinking that will add to the others, can be more collective. And that's one reason why I found so beautiful what Patrizia did with the Italian young Theosophists. And so that's something that we also did in Brazil earlier this year, of gathering together and engage in dialogue and see what emerges from that. And I think it's a lot more difficult. I've been leading youth groups, trying to be very kind of democratic and collective all the time, and it's very difficult and challenging sometimes. But I suppose that's perhaps is one of the trends that we could follow up. I mean, maybe we can do a less personal personally based approach and a more collectively created approach to things. So that's just one provocative thought. Someone else wrote here to me, Javier Ortega. Can you open your mic and...
Hello, Rafael. How are you? I know. I just saying you that if I could participate in that WhatsApp chat, if you could add me. That was the question. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. You wrote me a message, and I thought you wanted to speak here. It's okay. That's fine. I will try to remember.
No, thank
but
you.
if you can message me later, because I might forget. This kind of thing happens all the time. But yeah.
Okay.
But do you want to introduce yourself? Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Madrid, but I'm living in London.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I suppose people get a bit shy because we have 30 people online. But I think it would be also useful to tell everyone that we have the Theosophists Declaration translated to English, and I hope it will be published soon in English in a theosophical venue, yet to be presented. So it would be available to everyone. If people want to read, it's more something to read and think together and engage in dialogue than really, that's the truth and you have to accept that. But I think it's good as some kind of thing that can stimulate the thoughts and reflections. So can I ask people who are going to speak tomorrow just to make a brief comment here?
I was saving my words for tomorrow, so as I'm not much of a speaker, so I was saving everything I had to say for tomorrow, but I can start with some points today. I was when I was trying to figure out what I was going to say tomorrow, I was thinking about this thing that you said, Rafael, about working together and how amazing it was in the beginning of this year when we got together and we just started talking about what should we write, and somehow things appeared and they received this format. I don't know if I'm being clear, but but what I wanted to say is that sometimes we just think alone in our head. I am really this kind of person. I'm just thinking inside of my head, and I'm not getting together and sharing. I'm in the young movement since 2012, and it's been very challenging because sometimes it's only in the city where I was, sometimes it was only 1 or 2 people, and sometimes it was really full with a lot of people, and then it's just and when everybody disappeared from my city, I just felt, oh my God, now I'm alone. And then we got together and we have these meetings, these national meetings, and then you just feel that you are with a lot of people working together. We're just far from each other. It doesn't mean that we're alone. And for me, this is very important. We made these meetings, these 2 international meetings, and after it, we had national meetings because it was becoming a little challenge to to organize international meetings every year. And poor Rafael, and but anyway, I think I got lost in my words. I have a little difficulty to organize thoughts, but the point that I wanted to make is that how transformative it is when we get together and we get this opportunity to share what's in our minds, and we just realize we're not alone and that there is really something that we're building together, because sometimes we just go back to our lives and we just forget that there is this thing that we're building. And then I don't know, a couple of weeks ago we just met to talk about this meeting, and when it was over, I was just a few minutes together on Zoom, and it was already something that changed. And so I don't know if you feel this too, but when I was listening to you talking, I was just, I don't know how to put it in words. It's just a very strong feeling. And this is what I have to share. It's just a strong feeling of, oh, there is something. I think that's it. I don't know if I have anything to say tomorrow now, but I'll try.
You have one day to plan. Okay, thank you. Let's Shikha also wanted to share some words.
Yeah, hi again, and just a couple of words. On the lighter note, I wanted to say that while we are working like this and discussing being the youth, let us maintain this spirit, so after 20 years or 30 years, the next generation doesn't have to do what we are doing. So that we keep our minds open and let that flow of life, or what we call living theosophy, we keep it flowing, so that the next generation, the future of theosophy doesn't have to do anything with this. But on a serious note, what I have observed in present theosophical work is that normally what we do is, the theosophist, member of Theosophical Society, talks to only members of Theosophical Society. And on a rotation basis, somebody speaks and only the other members listen, whether they are 10, 25 or whatever. What our aim should be, that to take Theosophy to the non-members, to outside the circle of Theosophical Society, and especially to schools and colleges. If we can arrange, or if we have some resources to arrange some lectures on very simple theosophical doctrines like thought power or karma or the meditation, things that will help students and graduate students or of different level in their lives, that will really make that impression on them. Then in turn they might come to Theosophical Society later. So instead of just limiting ourselves to few members talking about among ourselves, we need to take it to outside the circle of Theosophical Society. That's all.
It's so nice to see you both in the same camera. It's so sweet. Thank you. Catalina, you also want to say it, didn't you?
Yes, I wanted to. Okay, it's a little bit related to what Ananda was saying. Of course, I thank every one of you that are here today, because really these kind of events are a very, very powerful seed. And all of us know the power of seed. From the seed you have a tree, from the seed you have the fruits. And also in these kind of events, even through the distance, because all of us are at a very, very far distance, those gatherings inspire us so much to continue, to persevere, and to also continue applying in our daily lives theosophy thoughts, which I think is the really important aim for us to do. And okay, Shikar was mentioning to take theosophy out of the Theosophical Society. One thing that I really believe in is in the power of example. And that comes from the self-transformation. So one way that we can actually take theosophy out of Theosophical Society is by living theosophy in every one of in each one of the situations, moments of our daily lives, whether at work, whether at, I don't know, bus, we are in the bus, we begin to talk to someone, And we can in some way, just by our actions, even without saying a word, inspire someone to see a situation on a different way. And we don't need to call that theosophy for the person. The person doesn't even need to know that that is called theosophy. But only the fact of seeing a different way of acting towards some situation, any situation, will make a small change. So that was what I wanted to share with you. That's all. And thank to everyone for being here. I'm very, very, very excited and full of emotion.
Okay. Should we go to, thank you. Should we go to Christopher then? Christopher also want to share something.
Hi everyone. I hope you can hear me. I do apologize. There's an internet problem in our area, so I'm just using my pocket Wi-Fi, so I'm cutting in and out. Anyway, I'm scheduled to give a talk tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll share my reflections on working with the youth, especially with the youth movement within the Theosophical Society. However, right now, hearing the inspiring talks from Shikar, from Patricia, and from Luke, I just thought of something because we're always thinking about the youth and the future, and that's something good. And because we always have to look towards something which is good, something which we need to aspire to. But I think we also need to pay attention to the now. Maybe we should also start thinking about what is it in the now that the youth needs. I mean, we should also try to see what are our needs as theosophists, what are the needs of the non-members, which theosophy may be able to cater to, and also what are their challenges, and perhaps theosophy can provide a way that can help them surmount these challenges that they are facing in the modern world. Perhaps we should also try to look at what is present right now. Try to assess the situation where we are, what the strengths and weaknesses of the youth movement are, and then try to figure out our next steps based on what is present right now. So I'm just putting that thought right now because most of us were always thinking that, oh, there's very few of us, or the youth is the future. What are our future plans? What are the things that we need to do? But maybe we should also try to see things first as they are. What are our strengths and weaknesses? What are our aspirations? What are our needs? And then from there, maybe we can figure out what the next steps are. And you know what they say, that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So maybe that's also one way we can also view the situation and view the youth movement as.
Okay, thank you. I have more people subscribing to speak. We have now Jocelyn Amaya. Amy, you sent a message on the chat. I'm not sure if you want to speak again or you just want to, but anyway, just please make clear if you want to speak again or not. But Jocelyn also wanted to say.
Hi, yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little bit shy when I'm in camera. But I think overall I agree with everything everybody has said. I have experienced the same feelings, the same thoughts, and mainly I agree with Catalina to leave Theosophy, to share those things with the people that within our own lives, right? With our own family, with our friends. They don't necessarily need to know what Theosophy is, but living Theosophy is the way that they can see, they can learn to interpret situations and things in a different way. For me, Theosophy has given me a lot. It gave me the opportunity to think critically when I couldn't. And I know that that might be like a very simple skill, but it's definitely not. It also allowed me to wanted to pursue an education. I'm currently in school, and even though it's like I feel like I'm already old and I could be doing other things, And this is what I want to be doing. And I'm pursuing a PhD also farther on in psychology. And I want to do research in clinical psychology. And I guess this is my own way of seeing how I can contribute to society, and maybe not tell them about, or maybe not talk about what Theosophy is, but expressing Theosophy through me. And I don't know, I think that's a very important thing that we can do. Even I don't have anyone here to share. There are no groups close here, but nearby, but in Boston, they're all very far away. And the only way that I can express that is by, by being online. So I really appreciate all of this that you guys are doing. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
It's nice. So, sorry, did you mention where you're talking from? Are you from Boston, you said?
I'm originally from Mexico City.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I live in Boston. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's very nice. Thank you. So, Luke.
Yes, I just wanted to make a brief comment expressing my support for what Christopher just mentioned. I do think that there's a danger in the word future. Sometimes we think of the future, it's something far away. We've got time to do it. We'll come to this in 20 years, but in 20 years, we'll all be old and we'll no longer be the youth of Theosophy. So I do think we want to put these things into action now, don't we? It's something we start doing today. And I think we are doing that by coming together and having this conversation. But it'd be great to also get some other practical things done. Let's have some, like Raphael mentioned in the beginning, there's some great ideas, maybe some kind of magazine or reviving some other youth activities that have taken place in the past. And we need to analyze the current situation, don't we? We need to look, okay, what is the state of things now? We need to be self-aware as the members of the Theosophical Society. We need to be aware of the current situation in order to build a brighter future. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I also want to share a few words. I think it's a very big challenge, really, what we're talking here about. I really agree with, I think what Luke said. It's not something that, we are going to finish the subject today. It's some kind of ongoing process of getting more mature on how we understand all this. And there are lots of difficulties. When we gathered earlier this year, we have this thing about, well, yeah, there are things that we criticize in the way the Theosophical Society is today. But then, at the other hand, we are also very grateful for everything that has been done so far. And it's very challenging to decide and to understand what is from the past, from this very precious heritage. What do we want to maintain, and what do we think needs changed? But I think at the same time that we try to think about this with gratitude and critical thinking together, there is also something that came to our conversations that was very important, in my opinion. That was, well, we're not here just to express criticism. We hope that we will have the energy and the means to create what we believe it's good. So we're thinking about this in Brazil now, and organizing meetings and lectures and things to study together things that we find relevant. And this gathering, it has some connection as well, and I'm very happy that people like Justin and Luke are kind of leading this online group as well. So I think it's not about pointing fingers and say, oh, this is wrong, this is a problem, but also try to think, well, if we are to build the Theosophical Society for the future and for the present, then how can we how do we want this to be, and what are to be changed? I think it's not easy. I think, as Catalina said, that we are planting seeds, and they need time, water, and sun and energy to grow healthily. Let's hope. Well, Gabi also, I think, wanted to say, Gabriela.
Gabi, unmute yourself, please.
Oh, hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm Gabriela from Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. I live here. I studied English translation at English-Portuguese translation at University of Brasilia. And I'm an artist besides a translator and reviewer. I write poetry, I play the piano, I sing, and I draw a little too. And I'm in this society Theosophical since 2013. And I'm very glad to meet the new people here and to re-meet people here. I've been in the youth meeting in January here with the 7 propositions, very good propositions, I believe, without prejudice, yeah, creating a new world, yeah. And I like very much the spokes of everyone. Very nice to meet and re-meet you. Huge hugs.
Okay, thank you. Well, Daphne also wrote a message. I'm not sure whether she wants to talk in the mic, but I think it's worthwhile to read the message out loud. Daphne is one of these very active young members from our movement in Brazil, also yoga teacher, an amazing member when if we have the chance to meet her. She said, "Hello, I'm Daphne from Brazil. I'm glad and very thankful for hearing my dear friends and other brilliant young theosophists speaking very good. The future of Theosophy is in our hands. Let's do our best for keep the Theosophy alive today and in future generations. All the best." So thank you, Daphne, for the message.
Thanks.
Please just let me know if you want to speak in the mic as well. And Gabi, so the next person who has to say is Justin. Justin Tanksley.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for who spoke today. It was very good. Raphael, thank you for prompting us to all get together. And I definitely think it would be a good idea to continue these into the future because the more we meet and the more we all have an opportunity to speak, even if for a moment, I think we can build on that energy and we can start, it'll become more smooth moving forward, I think. I noticed in what everyone was saying today that there were a lot of correspondences, and I guess that's inevitable when we're talking about the same topic. But I noticed the idea of brotherhood and the 3 objects being important for the future of theosophy. And I just, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about that tomorrow, but I just wanted to say that there are these correspondences I noticed. And then I think Anne mentioned a lot of goosebumps, and we were talking about this feeling of connection, not just thinking about it. And I'd like to offer an idea that we came up with in January at Crotona in California. And when someone's speaking and they say something that's true, we tend to get that feeling of goosebumps. And I just like to say we changed it from goosebumps to truth bumps, because when you hear the truth, you feel it and you know it. And I just wanted to say, Luke, thanks for bringing up the difference between ancient and ageless wisdom. I think probably not most of us in here, but a lot of people do kind of think that it means the same thing, and there is a subtle difference there. So I appreciated that. And yeah, it's, I think that eventually we will well, we are friends and we're becoming closer friends and brothers and sisters. And I really like that idea of family. And yeah, and speaking of spreading theosophy to those who are not already theosophists, that has just naturally become an important aspect of my whole theosophical journey that I'm on. And yeah, we don't need to necessarily say I'm a theosophist and try to define what that means to people. But yeah, living through example. And I think the deeper our service becomes and the deeper our meditation becomes, the more we can share that with people, and the more life will give us an opportunity to share that with people. You know, the right person will just come your way and you'll have an opportunity to share some of these principles and teachings. And the more we evolve and unfold our inner lives, I think our outer lives will present us with an opportunity to share this a little bit more. So tomorrow, I look forward to speaking tomorrow, and I just wanted to share those few thoughts. And thank you, Chris, for bringing up the now, because that's the only time we operate in. So, yeah.
Okay, maybe in 30 years time, lots of us will be in ADR, in a convention, and we will be talking and mentioning, do you remember in these horrible pandemics in 2020, we began to do this online gatherings and stuff, and then tell the new youth, well, you know, we know each other for 30 years, and it has been an amazing time to work together. I hope we can, you know, live through to be in this experience or something similar. Christopher, the next person.
Okay, so aside from that idea earlier that we should also take a look at the now and take one step at a time. I'm also I'm not sure if I heard it correctly earlier, but somebody also mentioned that there's an idea that theosophy is a bit intellectual, that it's more on the mind or more on philosophizing things. So well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that, because that is one of the most appealing aspects of theosophy for me personally. A lot of the proposed answers of theosophy about the questions of life actually appeal to me. That's why I'm here. But going to that, in the initial stages of the founding of the Theosophical Society, Madame Blavatsky and the other founders were trying to introduce a lot of spiritual topics to the West. So that's why there's a lot of literature that's very intellectual. But going to the further, going to the literature of the later Theosophists, some of them are not that intellectual anymore. And I think that, for example, Leadbeater says that there are different yogas for each of the different ray types, and these ray types, of course, refer to different people. So I think that's also one of the things that we as the youth group can also look into, how we can make theosophy more appealing to different types of people, not just to the intellectual types, but also, for example, to the artistic types, for the people who are more into the for example, for people who are more into education, into philosophy, into active service work. So maybe that's also one of the directions that we can also take a look into.
Okay, thank you. There's also a nice message here that says my PC. I don't know what's the name, but it just say, I will just read out loud as well. I think it's worth reading. Hello, everyone. I will just type here my thoughts. I just want to share that I feel so inspired listening to all of you. I am a teacher in Golden Link College, and I can see in our school the future of theosophy, educating the youth to become good people. So thank you for the message here. If you want to say your name, it would be nice as well. And then also Enrico from Italy, would just to say hello. Can you turn your mic on?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
So hello everybody, and as you can see, I'm not a young theosophist. Maybe you realized, or let's say I'm a young theosophist in disguise. However, thank you for inviting me to join this fantastic gathering. I'm just going to say a few words to wish you all the best for this fantastic idea. You are the future for Theosophy. And this means can connect us and really bring us all together. Where we are, what time it is, it's not important. The most important thing that we feel the need, the enthusiasm to be as one, to be together. So thank you, and a great future to this movement.
Thank you, Enrico. So the next person is Justin. Wanted to say something?
Just really quick in response to what Christopher brought up about what someone else had brought up in regards to there being a lot of focus on the intellect with Theosophy. I just noticed this, and maybe everyone takes it in a different way, but if you read At the Feet of the Master, that book is definitely it's a deeper book, but it's geared towards I think the concrete mind, the intellect, perhaps. And then if you read Voice of the Silence, that kind of speaks more on an emotional heart level. And if you read what's the third one? Light on the Path, that kind of speaks to something beyond, what I could even say in words. And so there are these ever increasing, there's these more and more subtle levels of experience. And at some point, the inner truth of what Theosophy is trying to get at, we almost can't really speak about it too easily. And so perhaps in order to communicate it, it comes off very intellectual, but maybe on a subtle level, it's not so intellectual. There really is a lot more feeling and some other kind of experience involved as well.
All right, thank you. I think it's almost time. I think there is a message here from Nicola, and then maybe we can do a closing and a quick meditation, and then there's more tomorrow. So, so there's also a message here from Nicola Dal Zotto. He says, or he or she, I don't know, says, hello everybody, I'm very glad to be here with all you beautiful people. So inspiring thoughts, thank you. So thank you as well, Nicola, for being here and sharing your words. So yeah, tomorrow we have the second panel, and I think we will have time until tomorrow also to think and digest ideas and maybe feel more comfortable to engaging, speaking and discussion tomorrow. As we mentioned before, it's not the end, it's just a beginning really. Well, there's a message here from Charles. I'm sure it deserves to be read, so I'll also read this one before we end. Charles Boeira says, hello everyone, I'm a writer and a speaker at the Theosophical Society in Brazil, known from being somewhat controversial eventually. I have an interest in the study of religions, studying Native American and African traditions. Raphael and I have constant dialogues, and I'm very happy to see you all. This renewing thought in the Theosophical movement fills me with hope, and I am sure that we will work together for many years as the world and the Blavatsky masters deserve more and better. We will continue together. Thank you, Charles, for the kind words. So yeah, tomorrow we have four new people. So we will have Justin, and then Catalina, and then Christopher, and then Ananda. Or I think I should say the countries, don't I? It says Justin Tanksley from United States, Catalina Isasa Cantor, originally from Colombia, but currently in India, Christopher C. from the Philippines, and Ananda Winter from Brazil. So these are the speakers tomorrow, and then we will also have a moment for open discussions, and perhaps we can use this day to think about these things and come together with even more engaged discussions. So there's also a message here from Armielin Matella. Thank you, everyone. It's a wonderful time with all of you now. Thank you, Armielin. So to close the session, I would also invite everyone to sit in a very comfortable position, a very stable one, and close your eyes and pay attention to your breath, trying to breathe just a little slower. And each time when you breathe out, you realize your body is getting more relaxed, your emotions are calming down, and your mind is becoming clear. We talked a lot of ideas, and some of them maybe touched you, maybe some of them made you think or inspired. Perhaps you agree with something that was said, perhaps you disagree, but we can wait a moment with our calm emotions and clear mind and observe what thoughts and reflections come naturally to your mind as a result of our session of discussion and reflections. We did it collectively. Now let's spend 1 minute in silence, observing what comes naturally to our minds as the results of these discussions. If there were ideas that were worthwhile, take these ideas with you, keep with you, reflect upon them.
Rafael, your mic is muted.
O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with thee know they are, therefore, one with every other. Peace to all beings. Thank you for coming, and we will see you all tomorrow in the same time, in the same Zoom link, and perhaps in a different YouTube link. Thank you very much. I will interrupt the transmission